Bray Wyatt's got the whole world in his hands, and he's also teasing a new character that has mysteriously left some cryptic teasers recently on WWE television. But what is the name of this new character, and what will his role be going forward? We've got the latest details on that. Plus, Roman Reigns, what's his schedule as we head into November and Crown Jewel and Survivor Series being on the horizon? The Good Brothers are back with WWE, but what is their deal like with the company, and what does it mean for their status with New Japan Pro Wrestling? Omos is scheduled for more appearances on SmackDown and an upcoming match against Braun Strowman. WWE officials are reportedly impressed with Angelo Dawkins' in-ring appearances as of late. Plus, the stock price hits a record high in almost 3 years. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment, and we've got the latest when it comes to none other than Bray Wyatt. He's still the biggest story in pro wrestling right now. People are still buzzing because of his return over a week ago now, 8 days ago in fact. This time last week we were talking about what happened the night before with Bray Wyatt's returning at Extreme Rules, but now we're still talking about that fantastic ending to SmackDown on Friday, that emotional promo with Wyndham Rotunda in the middle of the ring being interrupted by this mysterious, evil, sinister face, this mask that you can see on the screen right now. And it has been speculated and discussed if this is the latest iteration of Bray Wyatt, what this character is. In the past, we've seen the Eater of Worlds, we've seen the Fiend, we've seen the Firefly Funhouse version of Bray Wyatt, we've even seen Husky Harris. So what's the name of this new version of Bray Wyatt? What's the name of this latest iteration of his personality, this latest character? Well, a name for a new Bray Wyatt faction character has possibly been revealed following speculation about a potential Wyatt6 faction. Now, following Wyatt's WWE comeback at Extreme Rules, the returning star cut an emotional promo in the closing moments of this week's edition of Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. Wyatt, though, was notably cut off by a figure wearing a mask that he wore at the recent Premium Live event, before the screen cut to Wyatt's new logo and the show went off the air. Now, this segment only fueled speculation about the rumoured Wyatt6 faction, with fans theorising about the masked persona who appeared on the screen. Now, as per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, it's their Patreon service, be sure to check that out, the mask brought in for the Wyatt segments has been referred to as a, quote, Uncle Howdy mask internally. Now, interestingly, you could say, well, is that just the name that they're using backstage? Is that just what they're referring to it as backstage? They haven't figured out the character name, or the character name hasn't been revealed yet. What's going on with that? Well, there appears to be a bit more to it than just that, because interestingly, WWE filed to trademark the name Uncle Howdy with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the USPTO, on October 8. WWE also filed to trademark, quote, Uncle Harper, which appears to be a homage to Luke Harper, of course, the WWE character of the late Brody Lee. Now, recent reports have indicated that not only does WWE have plans to form a stable around the returning Bray Wyatt, but the company also has plans for the group through April 2023 up to WrestleMania 39. So it would appear that this mask and this character is going to be referred to as Uncle Howdy. Now, what do you guys think of that? Because I'm still in kind of two minds of it. I'm in two minds whether this is really sinister, Uncle Howdy, because look, it sounds like, if again, and this kind of goes back to the Firefly Funhouse almost, doesn't it? Like, Uncle Howdy feels like a children's show character. Oh, hi, Uncle Howdy. It's Uncle Howdy, folks. You know, something like that. But I suppose it can be really sinister. I mean, the mask itself is very, very sinister in the fact that it's still smiling. And this is the thing with the Fiend mask as well. You recall that Fiend mask, it had teeth, and it looked like it had this evilish grin. And initially, it must be said, when he came out at Extreme Rules, and I saw that mask, which is similar to that film. I forget the film's name. You can let me know in the comment section below. It's a rip-off of that film. I wasn't sure about it because I went, how does that really look? I don't know about that one. But now, I've seen it a couple more times, and most importantly now, the way they're shooting around it, the production, and this is the key. I think this is the key to everything Bray Wyatt. The production is so good. The production is really, really good for all of this. And the reason I say that is because you notice on Friday, when they shot Bray Wyatt in that mask, you don't see anything. All you see is the head. That's all you see. You don't see the body. You don't see behind it. All you see is blackness, darkness. You see the mask and you see the red eyes, the red evil eyes behind it. So that's going to be referred to as Uncle Howdy. Now, I don't know if Bray Wyatt is going to be cutting promos with Uncle Howdy. I'm not sure. I don't know if we're ever going to see Uncle Howdy wrestle. I think it would be particularly difficult to wrestle in that mask. And frankly, again, this is when you have to make sure you get it right. Uncle Howdy as a promo device. Uncle Howdy is someone that is appearing on the screen or is appearing in Wyatt's head or in video packages or whatever. That can work. That works. Uncle Howdy wrestling with that giant face thing on probably isn't going to work. But then again, I don't think we're going to see Uncle Howdy wrestle. And the reports are that we are going to see this Wyatt6 faction, but could we see, realistically, for the first time, and I can't recall a time that we would have ever seen this before, could we see a faction that appears regularly on WWE programming that is made up entirely of one person? That would take a step back and think about that. That is somewhat revolutionary. Now, the concept of that has been done before, i.e. having different personalities. Mick Foley's a great example of that. Even Bray Wyatt himself has kind of done that before in WWE by going back and forth between the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt and the Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt and then The Fiend. He did it with Braun Strowman in 2020, so it's not the first time he's tapped into different personas. But the idea of a faction that would be appearing in multiple segments on the same show, but it's the same guy, is somewhat unheard of. Unless I'm forgetting something, unless I'm forgetting someone, you can let me know in the comment section below. But that would be wild when you think about it. Wyatt6 and its 6 different personas of Bray Wyatt, Uncle Howdy, this Wyndham that we saw on SmackDown, Firefly Funhouse Bray, Eater of Worlds Bray, The Fiend, and you could say, well, then what's the 6th person? Is it going to be, is it going to be Husky Harris? Well, I think the trademark's there, Uncle Harper. That's 6 people. That is 6 distinct personalities that we would have seen on WWE television. And maybe, Uncle Howdy is just the mouthpiece of this faction. I don't know. And I think this is why it's still fun, because there is still a lot of speculation around it and there is still a lot of guesswork. And sometimes as pro wrestling fans, we let our imaginations go too far ahead of ourselves and it can ruin it for us. But I don't think that's the case here because there is still so much ambiguity surrounding it. So that's kind of my prediction for what this Wyatt6 faction is. I don't think we're going to see different people involved. I know there's been rumors about Bo Dallas possibly returning, and I guess that could be a part of it. Maybe. They're uncles. So if Wyatt has a family, his brother would be an uncle to that family. I guess you can have that link. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I really don't know. Nevertheless, I really like the concept of having an entire faction that's just one person and all of these different people. I think that's really interesting. So let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner too. Roman Reigns, what's the latest on Roman Reigns' schedule? We know he's on a part-time schedule now after signing that contract earlier this year. An undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns is set for his next championship defense when he defends his title against Logan Paul at the upcoming WWE Crown Jewel Premium Live event in Saudi Arabia on November 5th. Now, Crown Jewel is not the only premium live event set for next month, as WWE, of course, will be hosting its annual Thanksgiving show Survivor Series, which will feature, for the first time on the main roster, War Games will be returning, and as I mentioned, for the first time, it will be on the main roster too. Now, with the announcement of War Games, many expect Reigns and the Bloodline to take place or take part, certainly, in that match at the show. Now, we do now have a clearer idea of whether that will be the case. According to PW Insider, Reigns is set to appear on the October 28th episode of SmackDown, as well as the October 31st episode of Monday Night Raw, ahead of his match with Logan Paul at Crown Jewel. He'll not feature on the November 4 episode of SmackDown, as he will already be in Saudi Arabia ahead of the show. Coming out of Crown Jewel, Reigns is set to appear on the November 11 and November 18 episodes of SmackDown, seemingly implying he will be featured on Survivor Series in some capacity. However, Reigns is not set for the November 25 episode of SmackDown, which will be the go-home episode of the show. So we could be looking at a situation where Reigns is going to be on those 2 episodes of SmackDown to set up the match, and he won't be there on the go-home, or maybe he'll film something and then he can technically appear on the go-home. But it would appear that Roman Reigns is going to be involved in Survivor Series, Series is going to be involved in War Games, and as he should be, realistically, right? I mean, if he wasn't, that would be a pretty big surprise. I mean, obviously, the last few years it's been Raw versus SmackDown. They're moving away from that now, but certainly it would be a huge fumble, really, on Triple H and the new regime's part if you've got War Games for the first time on the main roster and Roman Reigns isn't a part of that. You want to make this as big as possible. This could be one of the higher drawing Survivor Series in a really long time. Now, it must be said, I think the highest drawing Survivor Series in recent memory is probably The Rock and John Cena teaming up in 2012, or 2011 rather. Probably Brock versus Goldberg is well in there. Now it's a bit different to how these events draw, but I'd be stunned if Roman Reigns wasn't involved in that in some capacity, and he's got to be in that main event. And it's said that the biggest faction in WWE right now is the Bloodline. So for the Bloodline not to be involved in that main event would be bizarre. I know you could say, well, Owen, the Bloodline can be involved in War Games without Roman Reigns. He doesn't have to be involved, which is true. But is it really the Bloodline without the leader, without the tribal chief, without the head of the table? I don't know about that. So I think Reigns will be involved. The Good Brothers, of course, they're back in WWE, and we have an update when it comes to their in-ring return, which was actually announced this past week on SmackDown, or actually I believe it was just after the show, in fact, about the Good Brothers having their first match back in... Gosh, it's got to be about 3 years, hasn't it? The last time they appeared on, 2 years, I think, on WWE programming was on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, the last time they appeared on WWE programming prior to them making their return this past week was at WrestleMania 36 in the main event. But WWE has announced the in-ring returns of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson following their recent returns. On the October 10 edition of Raw, the Good Brothers made a surprise appearance to reunite the OC with AJ Styles. Gallows and Anderson will return to the ring for Monday's edition of Raw. The former Raw Tag Team Champions will be in action against Chad Gable and Otis of the Alpha Academy. This will be Gallows and Anderson's first WWE matches since March of 2020, ahead of their releases that following April. Now, the duo most recently wrestled at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Royal Quest 2 earlier this month, teaming with IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Jay White to face Hikuleo, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tama Tonga on the second night of the event. We also do have a bit of an update when it comes to their future with WWE. Most importantly, I suppose, their future with New Japan, what it means for their future dates. So this comes from Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp has kind of broken down some of the details about this. So it had been reported earlier this week that Gallows and Anderson had WWE interest whilst they were under contracts with Impact Wrestling and weren't exactly shy about it. However, their Impact deals then got extended by a month and they finished up working with the company in late August. They were working in New Japan Pro Wrestling without contracts, and Carl Anderson is still, at this moment in time, the never openweight champion. But it's not going to turn into a situation where he's just going to vacate the championship or he's never going to defend it or anything like that. Fightful had reported that the Good Brothers were working in New Japan Pro Wrestling without contracts, but had committed to dates through January's Wrestle Kingdom show. It has been confirmed to Fightful that New Japan Pro Wrestling were very, very aware that Gallows and Anderson were headed to WWE, and future dates with New Japan are still happening. So it wasn't a case of New Japan being blindsided. They were very aware that they were going to be headed to WWE. They were very aware they were going to be there on Raw, and they have been told these dates we're committed to will still happen. Now, Fightful are also saying that they've even heard from one side that there is still hopes that the January 4th Tokyo Dome show is still on the table, but of course that's between October and January, and a lot can and most likely will happen between now and then. Now, Fightful are also saying that Anderson and Gallows were only under a verbal commitment in Japan. So again, it's not a case of they were under contract, but also it's a case of they weren't actually signed to be appearing on these dates. They just said verbally, yeah, we'll appear on those shows. And those duties are being allowed to be fulfilled by WWE. However, they have officially signed on the dotted line with the WWE. So it's not a case of they're still freelancing. It's not a case of that they don't have a contract with New Japan, but they don't have one with WWE. They have indeed signed a contract with WWE. They have put pen to paper. They are officially on the WWE roster and will be going forward. Now, Fightful are also saying it's being described as a, quote, big money deal. So in addition to signing with WWE, they signed for a lot of money. So those screenshots and those tweets, this is why you can never say never in pro wrestling. That's why when Carl Anderson was saying these things, I'll never go back, never, ever, ever, I will never go back. Unless I want a second pool, unless I want to go to another Saudi show, well, congratulations, Carl, because you're getting that second pool and you're going to Saudi Arabia in just less than a month's time. So that's why you can never say never in the world of pro wrestling. But Anderson and Gallows are back officially with WWE. They are committed to New Japan until January. Their verbal dates, some of them might fall off the table. At the very least, Carl Anderson is going to make a couple of appearances with New Japan to drop the Never Openweight Championship, and there is hope that they could appear at the Tokyo Dome. That could be a wild show. Think about it. In January, at the Tokyo Dome, you could see stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, because there will be, Jericho will be on that show, Moxley will be on that show, possibly others, maybe Bryan Danielson will be on that show, and WWE, because if the Good Brothers can get clearance to be on that show, you will have stars from all three major companies in pro wrestling of the world. That's a pretty big deal. That's pretty historic stuff. So it'd be interesting to see if that does come to fruition, but that's the latest when it comes to the Good Brothers. Omos made an appearance on SmackDown this week, confronting the monster of all monsters, Braun Strowman, and an update has emerged for plans for Omos and MVP following their appearances on SmackDown this week. During the show, Omos and MVP watched Braun Strowman defeat two local talents, as Michael Cole called them, jabronis, in a handicap match. Now, after the match, MVP argued that Strowman looks normal next to Omos. Per PW Insider, Omos and MVP will be appearing on SmackDown regularly moving forward. Omos and MVP are still listed as Raw talents on WWE.com. Omos most recently wrestled on the October 10 edition of Raw, notably scoring a victory in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Following teases, it's widely believed that Strowman and Omos will face off at Crown Jewel on November 5th in Saudi Arabia. Of course, that Saudi show will be headlined by the undisputed WWE Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and Logan Paul. It must be said as well that I find it funny that they're saying, oh, MVP and Omos are going to be appearing more on SmackDown. Like the brand split means anything. That's why I kind of found it a bit funny with the Rey Mysterio angle they did on Friday. Rey Mysterio's worked out a deal that he's going to be appearing on SmackDown. Does the brand split actually mean anything? Because that would be a big deal if you had stars that didn't regularly jump back and forth. I found that quite funny. But we're going to have Omos versus Strowman. It's going to be Omos appearing regularly on SmackDown, and Strowman versus Omos at Crown Jewel is going to take place. Angelo Dawkins. This is a really interesting report, actually, with WWE officials being reportedly very impressed by Angelo Dawkins. Now, there are a few reasons behind WWE superstar Angelo Dawkins' recent increase in singles matches, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. One WWE source revealed to Fightful that Dawkins is getting a push due to improvements in his in-ring ability and physique, while another WWE source said it's not an accident that Dawkins has been working more singles matches, and the higher-ups are speaking well of him too. Now, his latest singles match was on October 3rd on Raw against the Bloodline Solo Sikoa. The match ended up having Sikoa be victorious, but according to Fightful, Dawkins has had many singles matches since June 20, as he had from WrestleMania 2021 to May 2022. It's interesting to note that his match on the June 20 episode of Raw was where he defeated Bloodline member Jey Uso. He later defeated Jimmy Uso on the July 15 episode of SmackDown. So it's quite interesting, certainly. Wrestlers that aren't even in the company reportedly have also spoken about Dawkins' potential. And AEW talent reportedly also told Fightful that they long felt that Dawkins could be the breakout member of the Street Profits if he got more singles match opportunities. So it's very interesting that, I mean, there have been rumors several times of the Street Profits being broken up, and that was largely to facilitate a singles run and a singles push for Montez Ford, who many considered to be the breakout star of the group. So, you never know. Could be Angelo Dawkins. We'll have to wait and see. Finally, good news for WWE's stock price, if you're a shareholder, I guess. Not that there have been many bits of good news for stockholders for WWE this year. The WWE stock has hit its highest closing price in 3 years on October 14, 2022, under the new company regime. WWE stock closed at $75.71 on Friday, the highest closing price since 2019. Of course, a lot has changed in the last couple of months, with former chairman and CEO Vince McMahon announcing his retirement due to these hush money payments and all of that scandal, etc. Since then, we've seen Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan become the co-CEOs of the company. Triple H oversees the company's creative as the chief creative officer, or chief content officer. His work's been heavily praised. The USA Network are reportedly thrilled as well. You could argue that this is again due to positive stuff happening on the screen. Also, it has been heavily rumored that a lot of people are, the stock price is going up because there is still this feeling that WWE might be open to a sale I believe I saw something of the UFC owners saying that a WWE purchase is something to be considered, or certainly an interesting prospect. So you never know. The idea of WWE being sold still is not off the table, as they say, so we'll have to wait and see. But there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.